26 inches of travel of working travel. This wiper has a transmission, so when you move it, it extends, kind of a special part, but they're designed to speak the same language as the rest of the truck. Custom glass, custom grille, headlights, everything.
Hey guys, today's a special day. We are bringing you Air Force One, and it is a long overdue episode. I think it's episode 3. Well, because we did the one with Jensen.
We did. Well, we did the studio tour when I first started, right, a couple years ago. Okay. And then I think we talked about it then. Okay. And it was just like a bare chassis, and then we did the episode, the last one. And James has been like, let's come out and film it. And I'm like, I just want to get like the front on and get it like to a point where I felt comfortable. Yeah. So now I feel like we're at a good spot to give it an update. It's got a couple different terms. We've called it, we've coined it the exotic Prerunner, the MCD1 Prerunner, chasing passion. So it is, I think Air Force One works really well with the last one. And I like that. It is an exotic Prerunner. So it's just like, there's luxury cars. There's BMWs, Mercedes, stuff like that, and then there's exotic cars where things are, the design and the style is very extreme and beautiful, and the materials that are used on them is all high-end components and all the best parts. So that's why that phrase exotic Prerunner is a really good coin for this thing, because that's what it is. It's hand-built, got extreme design, language, and a lot of really good fun parts.
I think it's time to check out this exotic Prerunner.
Yep, it's turned around right now because I'm at a point with the front where the new kit is on. We had some kind of complications with the previous suspension that was there before, and it just wasn't optimal for what we're going for in the packaging. So complete new front bulkhead grafted into the chassis, 26 inches of travel of working travel. So with a strap, it'll be like 25, but we're talking steering on, tie rods on, everything working 25. Damn! Swing steer, power steering solution, billet box, all cool stuff, but we did go through a thing. We chopped the whole front off, we tied it all back in. So last time you were here, I don't even know if it had the front or if it just had like sheet metal and a couple like stringer tubes coming out. Okay. It went to Montecito Motor Classic last weekend. We had it's a concourse event, so it was like with supercars out on the grass. It was beautiful in Santa Barbara.
And they let this thing in there.
It was the only thing that got approved. There was like a committee, like a board that kind of handpicks the cars that go there, and the concept and the theme was concept car. So it worked out to bring this, and they loved it, and they said it was like the talk of the show, and it was cool. I didn't have
it's a whole different group of dudes.
I didn't have expectations. I just thought it would be awesome contrast to have like supercar like Porsche 918 and Ferraris and all this, and then like this thing, and just see that like on the grass in the sun is awesome. Got a lot of work done on the front. The motor is kind of the last piece to the puzzle for the front packaging before I can continue and getting all the components dialed in the front. And now it's flipped around, and we're figuring out the rear and the whole portion of the chassis that's behind the bump stops. So we can uncover it and check out the front and walk through it. It did have portions of a chassis originally, and we've gone through that before on the build, but we probably have 5 to 7% of the original chassis on here. Thomas has been awesome with me, and he's a great customer, and we are on the same page with the build and the direction, and that goes a long ways. Being able to have someone where I can execute my creative process on this stuff and have this thing work all as one big design that's functional is just awesome. Ride height will be 12 inches of up travel in the front, just meaning like 12 inches until it's fully compressed, and then 13 in the rear. We stated before, this is a 04, 05 cab, F-150 extra cab. short wheelbase, full tube chassis. Now we have all Pro-Am trophy truck hubs. These are retired Pro-Am wheels. These are like the old Rob McCachran trophy truck wheels. I think the Riviera truck had these as well. I don't know where he found these, but he got them and they couldn't fit the truck better. And this is the new kit. Obviously we designed the upper arms in-house. This was something that started as a sketch. You can kind of see on my Instagram. Started as a sketch, and then I had Marcel do the SolidWorks, and then we had them machined, and they're kind of a special part, but they're designed to speak the same language as the rest of the truck. It's a 26-inch situation here, 3-inch coilover, 4-inch piggyback bypass, and a 2.5-inch bump stop. But you can see everything is laid out in a pretty special form here. The coolers up front are both oil coolers, and then this is your power steering reservoir. your power steering coolers, and then you also have your coilover reservoirs mounted, and everything is on a substructure. So all this stuff unbolts. You can kind of see the pickup points here, and then all this is hand fab. So all the bump stop mounts, all the cross member, all the tie-in, the upper bulkhead, all this stuff we built on the truck. Carbon panels, obviously, like they're service panels, and they're also ventilation panels like we talked about, where there's going to be a tunnel of air running through the middle of this thing to extract all the heat. There's going to be a lot of carbon, so I just wanted to get a proof of concept and put carbon up there to see like what that's all going to look like. These are the air dryers, dual air conditioning system, so we're running 2 air dryers. The actual condensers are going to be mounted into the front clip.
Did you guys talk about the T2 upper arm?
Well, I didn't mention T2, but I'll listen.
Terminator 2, you know when the cop's like running after...
Yeah, there's a T1000.
Yeah, T1000,
there you
right?
go.
So
yeah,
Terminator 2, the T1000's running, and this is that fool's arm right here.
Yeah. It's hard for me to process where we were at last time, so I'm kind of just trying to collect my thoughts on it and figure that out and walk you guys through it. But I'm pretty sure like this whole bulkhead was not here. I mean, I cut this thing right in here, these tubes, that tube, and then that whole bottom portion of the bulkhead was off too. And you can see there's kind of a cool spine right there. But you can see like there's Charlie's box. That's an all billet power steering solution box nestled in there. And then it actually, the bulkhead, there's a uniball in here. So the shaft has an extension, the steering shaft, and there's a uniball that it pivots on, so it comes out easy and it registers right there. And then that's gonna go to your steering. You guys can see all the swings here. So 70-75 billet swingers. And then this portion here is chromoly. It's chromoly chunk, and it's seam welded down the middle with dowels in it. We also have the pitman arm, which is like a big chunk for the pitman arm that's also billet chromoly. The tie rods right now are just mocked up just to get to the show. And they're just like, this is what we do for mock-up. We usually just weld a jam nut, sacrifice the jam nut, get it so it at least steers with its wheels. So this is where our down tubes connect. You can see the backside of the bulkhead. This is a big spine register that's the same thing as the B-pillar, where it's a tube and then it's plate on each side and blended. This tube that comes from the passenger side actually X's, so it lands on this other side here. And then this tube intersects, so they're actually tying themselves together. But you can kind of see the bulkhead. You can see all the inner workings of this thing from where the engine's gonna be. You can see like I have primaries right here. So that's all new stuff. All this was tied in to the chassis. So we just added this entire portion. The bolts register through holes back here. This whole thing's kind of just been integrated from where it was before. It was just a bare tube that we had in here, and I know it's hard to see you guys, but I'm just on limited space. Lower arms, kind of the back side of the uppers, everything's tied in. Some of the stuff I wanted to push for on this thing is packaging, where we put all the components in the chassis in a way where it's not clustered, and that's what we've tried to get here. You can see like the coolers and how they're staggered is all part of the end result of how we want the glass to be. It'll have full custom glass, custom grill, headlights, everything. And we didn't want to have like a big cooler, like a big vertical rectangle of a cooler coming out here where it would add a constraint to the overall design of the body. So that's why you have like the tension with the design here. Even with the glass off, it looks pretty cool and interesting. But once we have all the exterior panels on, it's really gonna make sense as far as why things look like this. Another thing that's unfinished here is this portion with the clecos. This is a bypass mount and a crossover, engine crossover. So once this is machined out of a billet chunk of chromoly, then this will be bolting in 3 locations with 1/2-inch bolts, and it'll also hold the bypasses. But when it comes out, then it lends itself to having a bunch of room to actually get the engine out. One of the other things too is that mono wiper. People always ask about that. My whole life of like watching American Le Mans series and GT cars and DTM cars, like touring cars and rally. So I always notice there's a mono wiper, and I'm like, how cool would it be if we get this thing where the electronics can clock it right in the middle of the windshield wiper, like a center line, because there's so much symmetry with this thing as far as everything kind of being equal per side and packaged nicely, where that thing can just live there. And I think it would be awesome, even like when you have a steering wheel with like the center stripe on it. Yeah. It's kind of a similar vibe. And once we have the roof scoop, everything will have a really nice symmetry. But with this wiper has a transmission, so when you move it, it extends.
Dang.
when it gets to the farthest point, and we'll obviously put like the proper blade on here, and then it goes back when it gets to the end. So when it goes, you know, towards out, like it goes out towards the furthest area, it comes out,
The driver
and then it comes back in,
Yeah.
and then it goes back out again. So you can see like it has that transmission.
Yeah.
That's how it covers the whole windshield, you know. So I can't final mount that stuff, and I can't final mount the crossover piece or do the intake until we get the engine.
Right.
Because, you know, I can take my guesses, but if I shoot myself in the foot and have to redo that twice, those are way too crucial of parts where I don't want to take that risk.
Yeah.
Once this is done, we'll have a complete intake box here, which will be like an element like you would in a OEM car, where there'll be like a male end or a female end. So it'll be two pieces with latches, and you'll open it and you'll have a filter element, all carbon, all molded carbon. That kind of wraps up where we're at with the front until we get the engine, until we get the trans, and start doing the body. This truck is special, and it's all functional design. You can see like the tubes are spanning out wide. They're gonna be wide. This whole cradle is gonna go to like right here. We'll show it at multiple events and venues.
Or are we thinking like SEMA next year?
Yeah, that's the goal.